Hey, welcome back to Fake Deep Thinking. Sorry, we're starting a little late. It is Thanksgiving week, so obviously people are working late. Traffic's
We all y'all
crazy.
shit.
And John's 2 shots in. Let's go.
We all y'all shit.
Let's introduce the crew. We have John,
What's up?
Loosey Goosey, Doc,
Yo, what's up, y'all?
Ian the figurative back.
Why is Doc loosey goosey?
Well, I was like loosey goosey towards John. I realized after I said probably. I mean, Doc is loosey goosey. He's probably the most loose guy here. And then myself, Eugene. I don't know how that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to make it like flat, to be loose, but it didn't make
Flaccid hands.
Yeah, flaccid hands. I'm just completely flaccid.
The word has been completely colonized by the word penis. Has completely has nothing to do with anything else anymore.
Instantly think of penis when you hear the word flaccid.
What?
Hey, we got a guest in the back.
Just like a head that like pops through.
Failed. Anyway, let's jump into the first topic. We have a super funny one. At least I thought this was super funny. When I saw it, I was like, we're talking about this. Instantly put on the top of the list. And that is the fight that almost happened in the Senate hearing. Ian, pull it up. So I found an extended clip. This one's 4 minutes. It shows like the lead up that everyone saw. It's like 30 seconds to a minute. And then I have the after of them like trying to calm things down because I feel like it helps like give a little bit of context a little bit. So we'll watch that and then we'll talk about the brawl that could have happened. All right, go for it, Ian.
So I just wanted to set the record straight on that, and that's coming from statistics, all right? Now, let's talk about Mr. O'Brien himself, his behavior. As everybody knows, and it's here, and the last time, him and I kind of had a back and forth. Appreciate your demeanor today. It's quite different. But after you left here, you got pretty excited about the keyboard. In fact, you tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And let me read what the last one said. It said, greedy CEO who pretends like he's self-made. Sir, I wish you was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me, any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. Don't run your mouth. We can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
Oh,
guy.
stop it.
Is that your solution every
Hold it. No, sit down.
why you're a clown.
Sit down.
Look at you.
You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Act it.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond, Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and
You-
bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have
I don't
the
like
right-
you because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it.
Yes, play the
You
whole
have the
thing.
mic.
It's
You
only
have
4
time.
minutes.
All right.
Make your statement.
Then let's do this, because I did challenge you, and I accepted your challenge, and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet.
Hold on.
You challenged me to a cage match,
No,
acting like a
sir.
12-year-old schoolyard
Hold it.
bully.
Excuse
Sir,
me.
hold on.
Hold it. No, excuse me.
I will
Look at the
say
back
exactly
Senator
what
Mullen,
happened.
I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything that said, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought
We're not
him
talking
in.
about, of course I
And,
did.
and let
He's-
me show you his hearing, because I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
Could you not
tell me
point at
about
me? That's disrespectful.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I respect
don't
people
respect
that I
you at all.
respect. So
All right, hold it.
let me
Hold it. No,
You're one of
Yeah,
100 of the most
hold
elite
it,
people.
please.
Act it.
Please. All right? This is excuse me. This is a hearing to discuss economic issues. All right? If you have questions for Mr. O'Brien or anybody else on what he has said, go for it.
I mean-
But we're not here to talk about fights or anything else.
I'm quoting exactly what he said.
You can
and
say
this
what
is-
you want,
This is
but
your witness
this
you
is
brought.
my
And
witness.
I'm exposing him.
You can
as a
talk
person
anything
who
you want.
he is. So
But
in
no fight-
2013,
Nope.
in 2013, O'Brien was suspended by the Teamsters for intimidating your own members. In 2014, you were part of, what would you say, organizing the harassment and intimidation of the Top Shelf crew.
Chef, not chef.
Top Chef, okay. And then, and I think in the reports they said sexual, racist, and homophobic slurs and death threats. 14 tires were sliced, and 5 Teamsters were arrested. And you said, well, I had nothing to do with it. But however, in that same statement, you said, but if I get called to testify, I'll plead the fifth. This is a witness you brought in here. In 2017, you were removed as lead negotiator
think
by
that's probably
then
enough.
President Hoffa for UPS.
Yeah, that's probably enough. I just want to get a little bit of the like aftermath of it all, because most clips I saw, it was like right when they like stand up, Bernie Sanders, like you're a United States senator. It got pretty much cut off right there, and I thought it was a little bit better to see a little bit of the aftermath. And I don't know, y'all tell me, but what are y'all's reactions to this? Doc, you go first. You were cackling.
Yeah, dude, that shit's honestly kind of funny to me. Like, this is probably the highest rating C-SPAN's gonna have for a while. Like, dude, but they did divulge into like school children where they're just like, "I respect you, well, I respect you. Come at me, bro, and then come at me, bro." I was like, all right. But damn, that's so funny, man. I honestly don't know the situation because I haven't kept up with it. But I mean, I guess he decided to bring combat to the Senate, man. Like, what was the plan though? They were just gonna meet in the center and just duke it out for a little bit. Like,
There was literally no plan. This is a prime
Yeah.
example of men and their emotions.
dude, I love how like when he challenges them, there's some cries of joy in the background, like, yeah, let's fucking go. And then there's also like people like, oh my god, like ah. Oh man.
We have
Freaking
to
what's that guy's name? Bernie Sanders is bringing in the order, being the principal of the Senate.
That's kind of the main reason why I wanted to show the aftermath, because I actually feel like Bernie Sanders did a decent job, like kind of de-escalating. Because I can't imagine Bernie Sanders being like a good
There was nothing to
de-escalating.
de-escalate.
So I don't think that's kind of fair. Because were they really about to go in the middle of the
There
hearing
was
room and just
nothing
start
to
like?
de-escalate.
Were they really about
I
to do that?
just-
Probably not.
I just sent a video in our group chat of something that happened at work last week. And you hear my honest live commentary. It was a fight about to happen at my job. You hear my honest commentary on what's going on. At one point in the video, there's a gentleman, probably 5'10", trying to fight a guy who's like 6'4", 200 pounds easily. Talking about saying, I'm not a coward, I'm not backing down. But he's behind me. There's 3 gentlemen holding the other employee back. 3 grown men are holding this guy back. He's flipping carts. He's trying to get to him. The other guy's talking shit, telling him to S his D from behind the table behind me. Now, at one point in the video, the gentleman looks at me and he says, I'm going home. I say, you probably should. He said, yeah, so I don't break his jaw. And that's when, Honest John came out and said, I don't think that's how that would go. That's not how this works out for you, buddy, in the future. That's not how that would work out if you got into an altercation with him. I say that to say one of those gentlemen really wanted to fight. The other one did not want to fight. The other one that did not want to fight didn't need any restraining. He was doing all that wolfing, didn't need to be restrained, didn't need to be touched, didn't need to be goaded into moving into a specific area. He protected himself with 2 tables distance between him and that other guy. Those 2 guys was never gonna fight. If 86-year-old Bernie Sanders could use
That's fair.
words
That's fair.
to stop 2 grown men who want to fight from fighting, then we supposed to vote this nigga president and we all tripping.
That's fair. That's a valid point. So in this example that you just laid out with your work scenario, who do you think was the one that wasn't willing to fight, the senator or the president of Teamster?
Both.
Why do you say both? Because the senator actually stood
Both
up.
men would have defended. So when it comes to like interactions with men, both men would have defended themselves. for the first person to throw a punch, they would have got face to face and nobody would have thrown a punch
Okay, I see what you're saying.
because there was still logic in the room. Even between the two men, there was logic. It hadn't reached a point of anger to where logic had escaped the room, if you will. That's when niggas fight. Other than that, them puffing their chest out, talking about you stand up, bro. You stand. Well, that's what you're already doing too much. Why are you instructing me on how to start a fight? You stand up. No, you stand up. We can go right now. Oh, can we? Oh, can we? We can fight right now. Middle of Congress. In the middle of Congress, like some third world country. We go and fight. Then what happens? Whoever gets hit first presses charges on the person who swung for assault.
I don't know if you can because DC, Washington, actually is a what's the term?
What
We
is it
talked about
called?
this last time.
A principality?
No, combat. Mutual combat. It's a mutual combat state or area, just like Texas. So if they enacted mutual combat, I don't think he can sue. It
What's the
depending on the
process of
degree of
enacting mutual combat? Is it just language? Like, is it, or is it like?
You both
Yeah,
accept the terms, and
yeah,
then you have a cop watcher, like an
So if
authority
I say
watch.
let's go, and you say let's go, but
no,
we
it
don't
happened
make
right
sure
there. We're
there's any.
both two consenting adults here. You want to fight? He said yes. Right here, yes, and that's
Does
when
the
he's.
witness have to be a consenting witness?
I would assume. I would assume, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's
You
an
know?
officer, then he can just like officiate. I think even without requesting aid from him, or
So then that wouldn't have been wouldn't have fit the criteria for that. Because
Maybe I like.
if they was really talking like how they was talking and they meant it, there's no waiting for a cop to officiate anything.
I mean, there's probably cops in the room though. Like if they were to
100%
just
there are
like
cops
Stop
in there.
the altercation to say, hey, is this the last John Wick? Like, we're not gonna put it together and fight. If we want to fight, it's bro, what type of then go do a celebrity boxing match. If y'all have the composure to go ask a cop to officiate the fight, go make some money for some homeless people or some poor kids. Because then what are you doing?
I do think the framing of the situation stopped them a lot because they were like, "Oh shit! Like, you really want to go? You really want to go?" Because they were both like, in their suits in front of a crowd of people, and like, so they were pretty hesitant. But
You
it
see
was
how far
like,
that walk was?
yeah,
Yeah, it's a pretty big one.
Awkward walk. Awkward, angry walk.
it would have been awkward for sure.
Do you
Oh,
think he
you
would
wanna
have
go?
walked or
You wanna
jumped
go?
over?
No, he would have walked. I think he
You
would
wanna
have
go?
walked.
You
Yeah.
sure?
I think they would have like walked around and been like, "You want to go? You want to go?" And they would have gotten in front of him. And it'd have been like the scene from South Park when they're like, "I respect you, bro. I respect you too, bro. Let's go." And they're just fucking barking at each other.
And then dude stood up, didn't take a step. Stood right in front of his chair. He didn't even have to move to sit back down.
Well, he took a step, but then Bernie gave him the perfect cop out, which was, "You're a United States Senator. Sit down."
Oh, I just remembered.
Right.
What senator state is he, or what state is he the senator for?
I feel like it's an M. Let me look this up real quick.
It's an M.
Like Michigan. I think I'm completely wrong. Hold up.
They talking about thugs and bullies. The word thug is so crazy. The word thug is so crazy.
Man.
Thugs and bullies? That's all it takes to be a thug.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is an American businessman and politician. Senator from Oklahoma. Okay, Oklahoma.
Texas.
Oklahoma.
So Texas.
That's fucked up.
The-
Don't do that.
Growth.
They're Texas. Texas light. Riot, Texas. That's exactly what Oklahoma is.
See, so when y'all saw this, were y'all put off? Like, I don't know how to characterize the question because what I'm trying to get at is I'm not against this. Senators fighting, and they're not. It's not a senator, another senator, but the context of elected officials specifically wanting to engage in some level of mutual combat. I'm not against that. If they want to hash it out, let them hash it out. Because I think this pseudo wall. It's not a wall, but this mask that we wear as Americans that we're against violence. We're these good, kind people. It's like, no, we're not. We're very violent people. Americans are violent individuals. I mean, look at so that's why for me, it's like, I'm okay with this as long as it's properly like the mutual combat laws, like someone's watching over it, making sure it doesn't get out of hand. I honestly, personally, I'm okay with this. Fight it out.
You know, it's way, shape, sense, or the form. First off, that means you lack the verbal skills to get your point across. Y'all can't communicate. That's your whole job. The whole job is to communicate. Two, if you're senators fighting, I'm cool with mutual combat. You're not going to be senators out in you fight. Whatever y'all do, y'all not going to be senators. Y'all not going to be elected officials. Why? Because you're not fighting over any principles that have anything to do with betterment of any citizen in your district or in your city or in your state. You're fighting because you don't like each other. That has nothing to do with your position. Now you're taking the time and where you should be bettering the country to fight based off personal issues because a nigga said he ain't like you and now y'all want to fight. So no, in this scenario specifically, no, I'm not okay with them fighting because
I
if they both fight, they should both be fired.
I get what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. The problem is, do you actually think our elected officials are actually trying to represent the constituents, benefit Americans, or actually trying to have a reasonable, logical, rational dialogue amongst each other?
You know
They're
for a
not. So
fact
who
I
the
don't
fuck
believe
cares?
those
Let them
things.
fight.
You
Let them
know
fight.
for a fact I don't think those things.
I know.
So
I know you don't. I know you don't.
no, I know you know I do. I'm saying, you know for a fact I don't think those things. The reason why I'm saying that is because those elected officials, that's a blatant insult. If you're gonna make me play this game with you, let's play the game. Play your role properly. You think when I go to Chick-fil-A, I don't think anybody in Chick-fil-A goes home and beats their wife or does anything crazy. Like everybody that worked for Chick-fil-A is just amazing. But when I meet them at Chick-fil-A in the line, guess what? Smile, happy, da da da. You know what I think when I leave? That's a great person. They hired a great person. I'm happy, da 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 da. People got the same problems we got. So there's no way everybody at Chick-fil-A is happy. I said to say, bro, we don't gotta deal with that shit. We shouldn't have to deal with that shit at all. You're two elected officials.
Let Doc share his opinion on this.
For honestly, I would have watched it just because I'm kind of like a observer person. Like I have an analytical mindset, so
Celebrity
I just
boxing
watch it.
match.
Yeah, so I would have watched it and been like, "Is this really gonna happen?" Because to me, it would have been like I said, like it would have been a spectacle. Where it's just like, damn, like I'm not for or against it, if that makes any sense in a weird way. Like I'm not trying to not be like to take like a safe way out. I'm just generally I don't really care. So I would have watched it just because it's a spectacle, and if seen where they have gone. Also, to me, it's kind of weird because it's like, the entire time I was looking at it, I was thinking like, this is how they used to get into duels. Like, they should have just been like, "Yo, pistols!" Like, had done like some old school politics.
Where's the glove? Pull out the glove. Walk over. Just
Yeah.
give the. I challenge you, good sir, to a duel.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of when it was happening. But the way they kind of went about it, it just took me to like a weird place. Like they acted kind of like high schoolers, where he's like, he tweeted this at me, and that was fight and fucking at lunch in front of everybody.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I guess it really is like them fighting over selfish matters. It's not like you poisoned the water in my state. Now you're an asshole. It's just straight up like you tweeted these things at me.
I gotta defend my honor. I'm the bigger man here.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the weird thing though, right? Like you have people who resonate with that. Because I remember like in Texas when Trump made fun of Ted Cruz's wife, like that was a big issue. A lot of people didn't like that Ted didn't stand up for himself and were not willing to vote for him again, or basically like, his reputation was tarnished. And then he tarnished it himself when he went to fucking Mexico.
That's how you end up a military state. If we solve things like through this, that's how you end up a military state. One,
I'm
I
glad you
will
brought
say
that up,
though.
Doc.
Go ahead.
No, I want you to finish your
What's
thought,
your
but I'm
point?
glad Doc brought that up because I want to touch back on that. Finish.
One, if we just dictate everything as far as elected officials through violence, then the most violent officials will become our officials if we're
That's fair.
voting that way.
That's fair.
Two, I will say, if a nigga started the presidential debate saying, "Y'all see me fuck him up last Wednesday," there's no way I don't vote for him. There's no way he doesn't get my vote. Y'all gonna listen to him? Y'all ain't seen what I did to him on Wednesday? I knocked him out 2 rounds. And y'all want this man to be our president? You can't even respect this man? And then 3, are we gonna watch Bernie Sanders? Who we gonna watch Bernie Sanders fight? So now if you just not like,
What do you mean?
I'm just saying if we go
Biden,
about
that'd be an
voting that way,
amazing fight.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much on par, Biden and Bernie right now.
this would literally be celebrity deathmatch.
Yeah.
Or here we do Republican
Yeah.
and Democrat. We'll do Bernie Sanders versus what's that one old guy that needs to get out of here? That's a Republican.
How do we address the gender
Just to
issue?
get out of here.
How do we address the gender issue? What if Hillary Clinton want smoke?
Oh man, Lauren Boebert and Hillary Clinton. I'd pay to see
Yeah,
that
but
too.
she gotta fight so you gotta find a woman representative because she ran against Trump.
That's true. So real quick, let me touch back on what Doc said, and honestly, you kind of touched on it too. Which, if we start electing officials because of their, I guess, capability of violence, is that a good way to summarize what you're saying?
Mhm.
So I was watching the Tim Pool IRL podcast, and I forgot the journalist's name that works for Tim Pool. I don't want to butcher. I want to say Lauren something, but I think that's wrong. She actually made a valid point, which is we don't have a healthy way of expressing or managing or even navigating around whatever the word I'm trying to think of violence. All we do is push it under the rug until it suppress it pretty much until it becomes so big that we get school shooters, we get gang members, or crime, let me just say crime on the rise, that we get all these problems because we don't have a healthy way of dealing with violence. So if anything, there's a conversation that needs to be had is we've tried suppressing violence for probably the better part of maybe 2 decades, maybe more. Only reason I say 2 decades because like I only been in politics for like I've been involved in politics for maybe past 10 years and then aware of it for maybe 15 or 20. And then my lifespan obviously back in 91. So maybe it's back then, maybe, I don't know, but from my perspective, maybe 2 decades worth of the suppression of violence. To the point now where people love to complain about school shooters, this gun issues going on, crime this, crime that, blah blah blah. Now, like, we need to have a conversation now. So if we can't suppress violence, then how do we manage violence? What is the proper avenue to express violence without it going too far? And I generally don't know. I'm just offering up the conversation because obviously in the guy perspective, the masculine frame, we've even joked about this before. 2 dudes can get in a fight. The next thing you know, you're dapping each other up and you're all friends. From a fight, which is, if you think about it, kind of wild, but that is an actual thing that happens amongst men. We express ourselves through physicality. Once I know you as a man are capable, and I was able to physically confirm that, suddenly I respect you more. Even if I lost and even if I won, I suddenly have a respect towards you because we exchanged fists. Why is that a thing? It is a thing, and why is it a thing? And if it is a thing, why don't we acknowledge it's a thing and cultivate that in our society because it's a thing? Instead, I'm probably going to go off a tangent here. I'll try to tie a pretty bow, which is we've embraced too much femininity in our culture that we completely abandoned all masculinity. Because people say it all the time, and I 100% agree with this, is we have a super feminized society in America, and in the West in particular.
I don't believe violence is is solely attributed to men. I think violence is attributed to your capacity for it. So
I was meant physical violence specifically, because obviously men
that's what I'm
exert
talking
violence in
about.
a physical manner.
Because a lot of times you'll see women incite the violence first because they don't think there'll be repercussions for said violence. So like I don't believe there's a space for it in social justice, if you will, like or social constructs or whatever. But as far as in any political or any judicial space, I don't believe it belongs because the perp if you look at the reason for those things existing, at its core, the purpose would be to prevent violence for all of them. So like the whole purpose of a politician is so we don't riot. We need representation. So that politician needs to be able to communicate with us properly so that way we feel properly represented. That way when they go to the next level and appeal on our behalves, we feel like that person's actually fighting our behest or protecting us. You know what I'm saying? Versus if I feel like politicians are fighting just if it's just violence all the time, I don't feel like my issues or whatever I feel may properly be represented. I don't know that person that's violent may not have communicated properly what they stand for, just what they're incensed by. Violence only begets violence, so I don't feel like
But
you're
that's
really just
fair.
showing what you're angry about, not showing what change you really want.
Fair, but I don't think you're acknowledging that there is a violence in us that we sometimes need to let out. And it goes to the point,
Socially,
Doc, sure, socially, and we need to find a way to meld that because even elected officials, they're still humans. They still feel these
right,
waves of emotions and want to express them in certain ways. So, I
right,
like that. To Doc's point that he brought up, Ted Cruz's wife was insulted. He didn't defend himself, and he lost votes because of it. Why do
right.
we as people feel the need to make sure that our representative is able to physically defend himself and his loved ones? It's a thing.
Two things. If you attribute that being a thing, then because of the complexity of our nation, everything is a thing. So like we can't say
Mm,
that
I think that
Ted Cruz, the people that didn't vote for Ted Cruz from Texas.
yeah,
So I could see the audience in Texas being incensed by a man showing some frailty and not defending his wife, right?
because it's
But
representation.
that's his representation. So I agree with that point. But that group doesn't represent all groups. So if you're trying to
Fair.
appeal to all groups, then you would say anything that they're incensed by in your reaction to dealing with it, then is a thing. So you don't want to. I get what you're saying because it's more of a prevalent thing than other minority things or whatever. Because he lost a lot of votes for it. But I don't think that's something you can chase as far as saying that's a reason that people need to vote for me because I stood up for my wife or da da da. Chances are anybody voting for those type of things, those type of lame ass things, to be honest with you, doesn't even need to be voting because if your politician can't communicate, yeah, we can go to violence, but the whole purpose of his position is to communicate. So for me to elect two officials or two people to be in position and they have to resort to fighting instead of communicating properly, what the fuck did I vote you in office for? Why do you need to represent me? You can represent me in a street fight. That's why I said socially is acceptable. If I bump into somebody in the supermarket and say, hey, fuck you, the man has every right to stand his ground and punch me in the face. I am paying politicians tax money not to behave the same way.
My issue is I agree with what you're saying. This is, I guess, me speaking a little bit from nihilism. The problem is we as people, not us, but this people as a whole, they can't help but put politicians on a pedestal. So if politicians act a certain way because they're these people of importance, other people try to mimic these people of importance. So that's why, like I referenced before, we have these decades of these, in my opinion, probably poor language, these very soft elected officials. So therefore, we've cultivated a soft society. Now we're not there yet, but it seems like the pendulum is starting to sway a little bit. Now we're getting officials who have no problem trying to start a congressional hearing, and it's like, whoa, 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 we don't. That's a little too far because people don't want to be looked at as I represent as a softie. Like, not saying Ted Cruz is a softie, but as that image as it was. People don't want that image of themselves. Like, that's not my representative. Ted Cruz not my representative. I would have defended my wife. Blah blah blah. Now instead you got Oklahomans are like, yeah, my man would have fought in the congressional hearing. It's like that's not a good thing, my guy. Like I get what
Found
you're
out
saying.
disconnect. I found out disconnect. The disconnect is in what representation is. Because when you me, I'm not saying me and you, I'm saying between the groups. Me, when I see a representative, a political representative, I want him to represent the best of the group that he's representing.
100%.
Correct? Violence would not be part of that.
100%.
Now, not standing down would also not be part of that, but
I would
violence
agree.
wouldn't be part of that. So those people who view that violence specifically is an answer to anything that they would need their politician to do other than like on a war or something, you know what I'm saying? But just like on a micro level, violence, then that means you view that as something positive that you want represented. And when we say the word representative, that's not part of what I want represented. I can fight with these. I don't need that man to do this knuckle up with somebody for me. I can do that.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I guess I just keep trying to relate it to like I think our disconnect is. I'm not trying to say you're idealistic, but I think you're speaking from an idealistic point of view. Like this is how things
You're right.
should be, and
You're right.
I agree with that. The problem is I'm taking into account all the factors of how we are. Like we're, in my opinion, y'all may disagree or people may disagree with me. We're very anti-violence to the point of being super soft.
We're fake
So
anti-violence because all
I,
these riots and
yep,
all these meet like all the LGBT plus like they be violent, they be getting down over there.
exactly,
So like
and that's and
we're
that's my
definitely
point.
violent.
That's my point
I
trying to
agree with
express. We
you.
don't know how to in a healthy manner express violence. I agree, violence is not the answer. Ted Cruz could have easily rebutted, "Don't talk about my wife," or say, "At least my wife's real and not
Yeah.
like factory built like yours." Something witty that would have been like that was a good one, like something like that. I completely agree with you because sometimes I forgot who said the line. I think it was Hillary.
They should have voted for Will Smith.
Oh, God
If they
forbid,
were
no.
so mad, they should have voted for Will Smith. If they was mad that Trump was talking about Ted Cruz's wife, they should have voted for Will Smith. Because when niggas talked about his wife, you know what he did? He smacked the shit out of
That wasn't the answer either. Everyone was upset by
her.
it.
That wasn't the answer.
Because
That's
we
what
don't
I'm
know how
saying.
to in a healthy manner express our violence because I hear what you're saying, like people who want violence, that like, yeah, like you shouldn't vote for that, that's not representation because I can do it myself, blah blah blah. I get that. The problem is because we lived in such a repressive violence mindset that when people finally see a man be violent, it's like, damn, that was masculine, that was tough, he's a badass. And it's like, what? Like you gotta, that's it's a we've completely warped our perspective of what healthy
I
expression of
agree with
certain
you.
things that are in us.
I agree with you. I'm just saying it stops at when your position, you're being paid by tax dollars to represent people. That's when the violence needs to
It's
social level.
sure,
Like
sure.
if me and Gene, we done been there. If one of us is tussling, the other one is tussling now. So like that's not the problem. I'm talking about I'm paying senators tax dollars and they are walking around in these suits and doing all this stuff and y'all get the hooking at Congress? What part of representing me is that on the clock? You know what? Gene, any other job you work, if you get into a fight at work, what
Fired
happens?
that same day, that same minute.
So
Fired.
why would I
Cut.
accept that from a
Done.
politician?
100%. I agree with you. It's just like I said. It's too idealistic because
We have to be idealistic when we're approaching anything and if we're basing anything on where we're trying to get to, we have to be idealistic as far as our approach to it.
I agree. The problem is we're not doing that. So okay, my perspective is I agree. We need to be idealistic because we need a standard. We need a healthy standard that we have to adhere to make sure everyone's civil. Correct? Is
Correct.
that fair?
Correct.
The
Completely agree.
problem the problem is we're not adhering to those standards on all categories at times.
I agree with that completely too.
That's why it's probably very nihilistic, immature. I don't know, arrogant maybe for me to come from this perspective, but I don't care if it devolves this because I also come from the perspective of I don't like the government. I don't like these officials. If all these
So you
officials are
see it as a
fighting each
part of
other, it's
self-destruction.
chaos. It is. And I'm okay. Exactly. I'm okay with it.
See,
I'm
that's
okay
what I'm
with it.
saying. So that your goal, whether you believe it or not, would be anarchy.
I can agree to that because I told y'all I'm like right between the
And
line of libertarian anarchist. I just don't trust the government. I don't trust our elected officials. I don't think they represent us. I think they represent themselves. That's why
So you
I
want
don't.
them to self-destruct for your not entertainment, but you want to see them self-destruct. You want it to be obvious in plain sight. So technically, we agree. Is your motivation behind what you're saying is different? That's why you're okay with it because it benefits you saying, "Oh, look at these dumbass politicians." I'm saying I don't want to watch nobody I'm paying my tax dollars to go fight. And then also, name one good thing that comes from two politicians fighting.
Name one thing that comes from two politicians fighting. Well, again,
Really?
this would be me coming from an idealistic place. I would hope they could shake hands after and be like, "Okay, beef squash. I feel good now. I got it out of my
What does that
system."
do for me?
As a constituent, what does that do for me? You feel represented. My politician's a
No.
badass. He can fight. I don't
And
know.
if my politician loses,
Then you good luck. Shit talking
well,
like crazy.
yeah,
You
well,
lost
guess
so many
what?
points.
Guess what, Gene? Guess what you just did? Guess what you just did? Have you heard of Tupac and Biggie?
Yeah, of course. Come on.
I know you have. It was a dumb question, but I was asking because there was like a East Coast and a West Coast thing, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
what happens if me from
I know where
Brooklyn,
you're
New
going
York,
with this. I know
John,
where you're going with this.
senator get his ass kicked by a nigga from Idaho? Son, anybody I see from Idaho is on site. Anybody, because we gonna get our lick back. What are you talking about? Now Brooklyn got new beef with Idaho. New Jersey beef with Florida. Now Chicago got beef with like. What are we doing? If I dare no senator to touch my senator. What are you talking about?
I don't even like my center like that to even care, to
Me
be
either.
completely
But I'm not
honest.
gonna watch him get his ass kicked because he represents us. It's my whole point. I'm not even paying you to take that you to lose on national television and you representing me. Then they're gonna think everybody from Georgia, everybody from Atlanta, they just gonna get their ass kicked by everybody from what, Texas. That's not even it's not conducive to anything. It's not progressive, it doesn't help anything.
Maybe that's a
Two
level of
old
detachment in
ass
me
people
then.
fighting. If you want to get it on, celebrity boxing match, y'all raise money for a charity, y'all give some of them tax dollars back that y'all fucking stealing, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Celebrity boxing match if you
Okay.
want to organize it. But don't stand up in the middle of Congress like you
I agree
really
with that
finna
one.
go fight somebody. Y'all
Yeah.
dressed in business suits. Y'all
Yeah.
didn't get ready for no fight today.
I
Y'all
agree
didn't
with
put
that.
no sweatpants on.
If y'all really
Like
about it, get a fight organized, get some donations.
he didn't
Get
loosen up his
off.
ties. Tie
I
was
agree with
still
that.
not nice and neat. Talking about he gonna come fight. And then what he gonna walk 50 steps to fight somebody in the what? In a dome, in an arena, in that wooden man, dude. There's a lot of posturing.
It
A
is a
lot
lot
of
of that
posturing.
because that's all it is. That's why I guess for me specifically, I'm so disconnected from it. Like even though I hear what you're saying about they represent me, so therefore I have to like stand up and show out. Like no one from Texas is going to lose someone from New York or something like that. I get it. The problem is for me specifically, I don't share that sentiment because I don't feel like anybody represents us, or even specifically, I keep speaking for me. I don't feel like anybody out there represents me. So why do I care how they act when I
But
think
your
all of
goal
it's
is to
posturing?
reset.
Yeah, that's true. I admit that 100%.
Most of the constituents' goal wouldn't be to reset anything. They believe in their mind that things can get better from where they are now. You
Good luck.
see?
That's yeah, you're
And
right. Fair. That's
that's
fair.
where the
Yeah,
paths diverge.
fair.
I'm sorry, Doc. You want to say something?
Yeah, I've just been thinking about like the situation. Honestly, I'm back on like the initial thought. Like I've been listening to you guys, but more so like I guess like compiling my thoughts. I think yes, politicians have a very sterile way of interacting with each other, and so this is kind of like a divergent from that. And more so, I think what people want, especially like the voters, if you're like one of those persons, is not really necessarily to break out into a fight, but it's more so to like show your honor. Like you have to defend your honor in some way. And so that's kind of like the difficulty and the willingness to be able to physically defend yourself. I can also see for like certain people that have honor as like a high trait of value in their lives. I can see that being something that resonates with them. And I think what Gene was really trying to get to necessarily, because it's not the glorification of violence, but more so the glorification of like honor, and honor needs to be enforced usually. And so that's kind of what it comes into it. And so like I think the camaraderie that happens after you find somebody who's like you're an equal in contest is usually mutual respect through honor, but it kind of depends on how it goes. Like honestly, like if you inadvertently enter a conflict, I've noticed with like another person, and you contest, and you realize at the end of it, like you were both in this situation because you just like out of honor, but you're respectful at the end of it. I've noticed most people walk away like, okay, I agree. But if there's a lot of like at the very end of it, it aggravates you more, and then the conflict continues. But I think that's very dependent though, like because it depends on what setting you interact with to see that. Like I hang around a boxing gym a lot, so the what Gene was talking about as far as like people not participating in that, I feel like I'm oversaturated in that. And so I think that's very dependent on like your environment and what you're exposing yourself to. Whereas like when I see people more chill, I'm like, all right, cool, like just do your thing. Like it's not necessarily, in my opinion, I think what's happening on the mass scale.
But can I pause you real quick, Doc, and analyze that a little bit and question you? So you hang out at, you said, the boxing, and you're around that all the time. So when
Yeah.
any kind of violence starts to rise, how do you see them handle it? Do they instantly start busting out and fighting, or do they try to come to some kind of resolution before it's like, all right, this is not worth fighting? Like how does that work? Because what I'm trying to point out here is people who usually engage in violence in a healthy manner, training, discipline, be it boxing, whatever, they find ways to either one, exert that violence, or to manage that violence. So since you obviously around that a lot, how do you witness that? What do you witness that
It's not what's the word? It's not like old school where it's just like you rise to the occasion, because most people pay to be there, and so there's a logic where it's just like, man, I just paid somebody to beat the shit out of me, like, so they usually drop from the gym or something like that. The one who I notice enforces that like old school sensibility is usually the person who owns the gym, or one of the coaches, or like one of the persons who is just like, damn dude, you just beat up a noob. Like if you really want to let it out like that, go against somebody bigger, somebody who's better than you. Like you have to fight up, and if you really want to go all out like that, somebody who can take it. And that's usually what I've noticed is like a resolution to that stuff. But then you do have people that are just douchebags that like punch down because they just want to be bullies.
Well, I'm not speaking more so of like the either the bully mentality or the, I guess, competitive mentality of wanting to rise. I meant more so two individuals have a disagreement. One thing I guess speak on, maybe my example maybe spark something new, which was if you had an issue back in high school with wrestling, I had an issue with my teammates. The coach would say, settle it on the mat. Right now, you're bottom, or they flip a coin. Okay, you're bottom, you're top. Right now, get it out of your system. Fight. Exactly. Not fight, but wrestle. Like get like right now, go. The coach and the teammates are watching over you while y'all are getting it out of your system. You're wrestling, get it out. And if it goes too far, the coach steps in and is like, all right, stop, reset, go. None of that. Like they're letting you get this animosity out of your system in a healthy way, not observant way, but in a like guarded way. I don't know how to describe it. So that's why I'm asking, like, when two people come to some level of impasse, how is it handled in that environment that most people aren't in?
I think it's handled similarly, but it depends on like the level of, like I said, like your level of investment in the situation. Like if you're like fighting another person who you know is going to be there for a long period of time, like somebody you've been friends with for 2 years, and all of a sudden develop beef for whatever reason, then it kind of goes that way. But for somebody who just like is just attending a gym and paying a membership, like they usually just dip out and they go to another gym. So it doesn't really end up in that situation because there's not the fraternity mentality of it gets reduced by the individual's levels of commitment. And so what I'm kind of really getting at with like the violence thing though, I think is that the reason why it's suppressed in the mainstream is more so because we've had a lot of we've overdone it a lot. Like, you know, we went into the Iraq war and we fought for 20 years. Like, we're kind of like done, dude. Like, I mean, And then even before that, like we've had wars, and then we found out that we blew up the wrong country, or we found out that we attacked the wrong people, and we ended up having to invest into 20 years of combat with them and stuff like that. So I think that is why you're seeing such a sharp resistance for in the public, where people are like, nah, like let's just not fight, because it's just a swing back from a lot of that stuff. But I do
We have
understand,
our
like,
children after the Vietnam War.
yeah, Vietnam was the worst too for that. It's kind of a tough pendulum to catch though, because it's like, I mean, I have a lot of vets in my family, so like if they go out because the initial anger or the initial patriotism is like, we got to go and we got to do it, and then obviously like once you're in it, like you know you're in it, and you know things happen within conflict that perpetuates you staying in conflict. Like if your homie dies, well then you're gonna double down and stuff like that. But then when you get back, and then people were just like, you know, you went for the wrong reasons, and then you're just like, well, what the fuck did homie die for? And then so people get pissed off, and so that backlash and having to deal with that, like it's difficult to say, because you have to basically like take care of your vets, because they're not the ones making the decisions, and so you kind of have to like hold respect for them, to be like, hey man, you're a warrior, like you did what you need to, what you were told to sometimes, or what you needed to get back home. And at the same time, like, because they got to go back out. Like we're so big of a nation, and we have so much investment in basically warfare, that like we throw war, you know, we go to war and we seek it out, or we show up at war, and sometimes they're not the right wars.
But
But that
that's an
doesn't mean we
example
should
of the
stop, I think.
fakeness in our culture, though.
Okay, I'm confused. So my question then is, I'm trying to contextualize this to like, what space does this have between Congress? Because I definitely get violence, like I said, on a social level. And I think everything you guys are explaining to me is on social levels.
Okay,
I'm
I hear
wondering
you.
what.
Okay, let me try to tie it in then. Or let me
Yeah, I wasn't
try
really.
to.
I was thinking of Gene's initial response, and I wasn't really thinking about Congress as much anymore.
No, I know, and I completely agree with everything you said. That's why I'm asking, like, in the space of those two gentlemen trying to fight, where, like, what benefit? Except, I guess some people will feel like their senator's real.
I
That
feel like that would be it, really.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
genuineness, like he's genuine, he's not fake. Maybe that's honestly the most realistic answer, because mine were kind of like tongue in cheek answers to you. But yeah, the most honest, real answer, closest to real answer, would be it makes people feel like their politician is actually genuine. Because I think the points Doc was saying are valid, but it's an example of how Americans are fake kind. Our politicians like say like we're so anti-war, we're against violence and this and that, but behind the scenes they're propagating wars. Vietnam, Iraq, and now Ukraine, and going on with Israel. Like we want so bad to be involved in the fight because we love violence. Americans love violence. We love to be in violence, and we love to benefit financially from violence.
I do
So
agree
that's
with that. I just think that like we have to invert it. Like you have to monopolize your demons, and I think that's something that we haven't done. So honestly, I know it's a lot of people have issues with it, but when people call us like the world cops,
we are.
like I don't really mind that, because essentially
I
like
100% do.
I know you. That's why I prefaced it
Yeah,
that way.
sorry.
Because
Sorry.
it's like, because it's like, think about it, dude. You have all this like history of violence, and you have all of this natural aggression. Like, wouldn't you want to be a cop? As far, and I mean, obviously, like, you know,
Yo, you know what's so crazy about what you just said, bro?
I know.
You just said some shit without you even really like. I know the point you're getting to, but you just said some big shit. You said we have a history of aggression. Wouldn't you want to be a cop? Now, why do you think people would have problem with the police officers we actually currently have?
but
If you
it's
have a
like,
history of aggression that makes you want to be a cop, now why would America put itself in position to be that cop if we have a history of aggression and we've shown that we can use it unwarranted in the wrong place in the wrong
it's
space?
more so
We wouldn't
like
even pass the test to be a cop in our own
it's
like.
it's more so because it would be a position where you could temper it for good.
Oh,
Like
that's
that's my point, where it's just like, dude, if you have the soldier like capability, be a soldier, or like, you know what I mean? Like think of like, obviously, like within our own nation, we have issues with cops and murders and cops committing murders and stuff like that. So I definitely see why it would be shocking, but like, have you? I mean, if you're being attacked by an assailant and you call the cops and a bunch of pussies show up,
Sad.
I mean, you might as well just take care of it yourself, right? Like,
100%.
so when
Yeah,
you
but
call the cops, you're
if you call that
expecting some.
cousin that shoot sideways
Yeah, at
and
that
you don't
point.
care who he hit,
But like, if you call the cops, you're expecting like a bigger force to come in
you're
and
right.
deal with the situation, and that's what I mean by us being the bigger force and being the, you know, the aggressors and stuff like that. Like, if we can take that and temper it, and at that point, I don't see the world police issue being such a problem. Like, I know people are like, oh, but we're going to spread ourselves thin and we have all this monetary like issues that we have to do. We're already doing it. Like, I I know that Europeans have an issue with us where they always call us the world cops. But now that Russia is about to attack, and if they conquer Ukraine and they're so close to Europe, where's their, you know, enforcement? Who do you think is going to back them up? Who do you think is going to be their military? Us.
No.
Like,
No.
The
and
thing that I
so now
agree
that the
with
situation is happening, like, I kind of like compare it to Captain America, dude. Like, he goes out there and he fucking does what he needs to do. Like, and I feel, even though it's fucking corny, I feel like that's what we do, man. Like,
That is
we
not
show
what
up
we
there.
do.
Well,
That's
we're the
not what we
rated
do.
R
It's not,
version where
it's what
We're
we
Captain
the
should,
Winter
America
Soldier.
still
We are the
it's
Winter
takes off
Soldier.
it's
people's
what we should
heads.
aim to do.
No,
Because
no,
we
we
have
should
Hold
not
so
on,
aim
hold
to
on.
much.
be the world police.
Sure,
No,
no.
we
Do
don't
it.
have the characteristics to be Captain Planet. We don't even have like anything we do. First off, what you're talking about is less of being the world police and more of making sure we have influence everywhere. Now, having
I
influence everywhere
feel
is
that will be an inadvertent bonus. Like, being
but I
there
think
for
that's
other
not an inadvertent
countries when
bonus
they
and
need
more of
us will eventually give us that
if
influence.
it naturally happened that
If
way. But it
exactly. It
rarely
doesn't.
naturally happens that way. Normally,
Exactly.
somehow, some way, the people who play hero have something to do with inciting the problem, therefore you needing them to be the hero. So my problem with it is like we don't have the capability to be police if we're also the villains. So like
Yes.
we should fix us first, figure out how we can police us first, and then we can move on to helping who we can help. But as far as us pretending that we're the world, we're using the guise of world police to actually just spread our influence and has nothing to do with policing anything. More of just being opportunistic in putting our influence in certain areas of the world so that way we can spread. Joe Biden is on camera saying if Israel didn't exist, we would have to create an Israel to protect our interest in that side of the world. Why do you have interest in that side of the world? Nigga, stay over here. You're in America. Why do you care that much about what's going on in the Middle East? Like,
I genuinely think our military is big enough to handle some situations like that. And I generally think like that's how you gain the most influence. Maybe it sounds nefarious. Maybe it sounds like just, you know, sleazy to go out there and just pretend to do good, or I guess whatever. But like, what's the opposite? Like, we've been at home and we just send out CIA agents and we fuck with the countries. Like, honestly, I'd rather we give them
we
some kind of
destabilize their
defense than help them
countries.
out.
We put in place who we want to put in place.
Yeah.
And when the second that they stop listening to us, we keep it pushing. But like that's not lost on me that Great Britain, for some reason, has so much power in the world. They have no natural resources, have so much power in the world, so much influence in the world. Why? Because the number one commodity that they sell is information. Their whole country is built off selling information and influence. So I get the reason, and I'm American. I've benefited from some of the shit that America has done to other countries. There's no way I could be ignorant of that. But I'm saying for us to protect, look, we said this like episode one. If we're gonna be gangster, be gangster. Don't be in police uniform pretending to be a policeman, and the whole time you're a thug. Like, if you're gonna take the shit, if that's how you're gonna go about taking shit, go ahead. Russia not lying about how they going about taking shit. They just moving in.
See that I agree with that, but I genuinely think like I said, like we have a giant military. Do you think if we call it all back just to protect the fucking nation, like what do you think?
No,
It's just
I
gonna
think
sit
we
there.
stay.
We've invested so much into it, and if we all pull it back in just to fucking wall up, like what
You,
what are
you
we gonna
got
do
some
with it?
imperialistic natures in you,
No, no,
Doc. This
I'm
is
telling
new
you,
to me.
I agree
But
with
I'm not
Doc, but
saying
I'm saying it has to be
conquest.
genuine.
It's
No, he's
not
not
I
saying
conquest.
know,
conquest,
I know you're not saying conquest. The
but it
problem
has to
is
be
it'll devolve
genuine.
into conquest because you're
Correct.
speaking from, like I said to John, you're speaking from a very idealistic place. We're going to go out into the world and be the world police because we want to help bring about change, bring about freedom, bring about honor, whatever it is. We're going to go out in the world and do that. The problem is, again, I come from this perspective. I could be wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong or right or I'm wrong or right. I'm just a different perspective. The problem is, we have this discussion. I don't think people are inherently good. So the odds of them actually going about and enacting good are low. They're likely going to go with intentions of trying to be world police and devolve into becoming space marines. We're taking over the world. We got to purge you. Like that. Like
Even to your point, Gene, you said you don't believe all people are inherently good, which you can argue with or whatever, but it's not even that. If the will of the people was good, the will of the politicians that are executing the things that they're saying they're executing has nothing to do with I can't control what they're actually executing. Once I voted somebody in office, whatever they decide until I can vote again goes for it. We're not going to do we're not going to have like
But
some constitutional whatever to remove all the politicians. So it's like it's not even a problem of the intention. The people that are executing the problem will always be opportunistic and take advantage of the situation and make sure to set roots in which their future interests can grow. So it's like we can't say we're gonna protect people because what are we protecting them from? Then who's gonna protect us from us? We have shit that we need people protected from here. So for us to say, oh, let's just go out into the world and we're the moral police, because then we're also anytime you're putting judgment or going to war on anybody, you're also saying that
hold as a
morally
mirror.
I'm standing in the
I mean,
right.
you're damned
And
if you do,
The
you're
whole
damned if you don't. When we call everybody back, they're
no,
just
you're
like, "Oh,
not
just
damned
send
if you don't. You're
CIA."
protected if you don't.
You just
If you
send.
bring your
They
ass
say you're
home,
just sending CIA agents out there. You're just stabilizing people with small
no,
amounts of
we are.
agents. It,
If
so
we
that's what I'm
stop
saying. Though,
doing
like,
that,
if you do both, like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, if you bring everybody out, you're still
mhm,
gonna have espionage going out. Like, you're still going to do stuff like that.
that's
The
realistic.
way the way like in my mind that I envision it is that we have this resource that in my opinion is far more than we need.
Military, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So why not use it as a shield to give to other people? Like
Mm.
instead of bringing it home and holding it on like where it's a fucking sword and holding tight to it, why not just send it out as a shield to give to others? You know, and obviously you are right, like situations going to happen like Israel where you know at first we were protecting a nation of people that were completely destroyed and now they're in a situation and now we're involved and it is difficult to
Wrath of
navigate.
God is raining on goddamn.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but like I mean you guys are Christians, like walking like the higher path is never going to be easy, so I mean it's just something
who
that you would
chooses?
have to
Who
aspire to.
chooses? But this is my problem with it, right? There's always some ego, like there's some egotism to saying that you're the person that's in position to be world police. Why can't Russia be world police? What's wrong with their morals? Why
Why
can't
can't
China be
China?
the world police? What's wrong with their morality? Like we're literally saying we have the utmost morality when you
I'm not
say
saying like we enforce our laws. What I'm saying is that we help the people that are willing to agree with us, you know, the most as far as
what we
we
do.
align with them. And exactly, we do, but like we're doing both because we're so big of a nation. And I generally think like if we just lean more towards that, we'll be fine. Like really think about it. Like if there is this suppression of violence across the country, do you
Okay.
appreciate your military more if they defend the little guy or if they beat the fuck out of him?
Depends on what the little guy
Defend, but
said or did.
But that's
well,
what
it
I'm
also
saying. Like
It's
when
like we have
that
the
one of
bad
the
pigs, for example. Like we have the bad pigs, for example. Like we were doing that to protect our coast, if you will. But we didn't send any of our men. We trained a whole bunch of people and had them slaughtered to be unsuccessful. Now, is that heroic? Is that what a hero would do or the world police would do? Train people to be sacrificed? What about Afghanistan, Iraq? We were there for how long? Y'all saw
But
those
that's what I'm
people throwing
saying,
babies
though.
on the plane?
Like, think about it. Like, if your nation is beating up on third world countries, wouldn't the people be sick of violence? Because all they would have seen in recent time is them beating up third world countries. Now, what if they went against another power that was viewed as evil? And even if they lost, how do you think the citizens would view their veterans? They would see them as
Oh, not the
heroes for
veterans, not the
trying.
veterans, the country, sorry.
The
Not
country
the
would
veterans.
see its force for as good, even though they failed. They would see them as respectable because they tried. They
Only
went
the truth.
against something that was challenging.
Yeah.
But that's only applicable to recent times because propaganda is not as strong. It's not as I don't want to say it's not as strong. It just doesn't
Propaganda is way stronger now than it was back then.
than
You can say
ever
that.
been, but it's not as if you're looking for the proper information, it's easier to find it, is what I'm saying. So, like for example, this whole thing with this Israel Palestine thing, how long this war been going on, bro? How long they been doing this to Palestine? For us to now all of a sudden be outraged and people fighting for Palestine, why is that? The spread of information is different in the past 10, 20 years. So now, yeah, if we know that there's a injustice going on in the world or whatever, it'll rally the American citizens if we know we're the ones going to protect it. But that's up until recent times. Before then, there's no real like it's just propaganda. We're just getting news.
I don't know if this is an oversimplification, but tell me if this you agree with this, Doc, or if I'm butchering it. It sounds like what you like. I don't. If we're going to get involved on the world stage in this police example we're using, if we are, I don't think the answer is we should fight your battles. We should maybe teach you how to fight at the bare minimum. And I'm not even honest. I'm honestly not even in agreement of that, but I'm more leeway of that because the problem is come to the phrase if you teach a horse or a person how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. You fish for him, he eats for a day. That's honestly what's going on right now on the world stage. We're fighting all these fights for these people and they don't even know how to manage themselves, defend themselves, or even build an army for themselves. We're the world police at the world's detriment because if we fall, the whole world falls. And our own country doesn't represent the entire world. That's why this notion of even though we have the capability to be the world police doesn't mean we should, because we are one country out of, I don't know how many countries are in the world, but let's just say there's 50. We're one country out of 50. It doesn't work because if we arm one country, that country's going to destroy another country. If we teach another country, they're going to run over another country. Even if our intentions are pure, the results aren't. Because in this specific example of us being a world police, someone's getting the shit end of the stick. So
then,
even if we go,
but so then,
So
like, what's the response? You
don't get
isolate,
involved.
and you just rot and like sit, you stagnate, like you
Why are
don't
we
get
rotting?
involved in the conflict.
Why do you think
No,
it? Why do you think us
you
coming back
create
home leads to rotting, stagnation, and rot? Like, help me understand that. I don't
you
understand your
create
perspective of
real
assuming.
relationships with other countries through commerce and not influence and manipulation. That's it.
Yeah.
That's literally it. You just have to stop. We just
So
not you
then,
specifically.
would you be for de-escalation of military, like lowering the amount of expenses towards military might?
Yeah, to a certain
Honestly,
extent.
sure. To a certain extent, sure. Yeah, I'm okay with that to a certain extent. Yeah.
Because
You
for
can't-
me, I honestly think we're too far deep. I think we're too committed in the military-industrial
Nah, it's
complex.
I agree with that too.
That's what our country focused the most.
Yep.
And that's where all of our resources. We literally have to gut the entire framework. Well, not the entire framework, but like, you know what I mean? But we basically have to take a hard left from the
Reset
direction
it.
we're already going. We would have to
Reset button.
yeah, we would have to reset it. The way I see it is just like, well, we have this resource that we built up and we have used for evil. But how do we invert it and make it make the most out of it, to use it for good. And we are doing what you were explaining, Gene. Like we're not even like really fighting for Ukraine. We're sending people to train them. We're giving them resources. Israel's a little bit of a different thing. I don't know if we've actually already started any kind of attack and backing them up and stuff like that. But for most countries, we just send people to train them, and then we send people to hold the line or create like a front and stuff like that. So
The
we,
trade-off
yeah,
for being the military police for the world.
and
What do
we get things back. I'm not gonna lie. There's probably some like, hey man, like some elbow rubbing and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, like we get things back from them being content with us having helped them when they were low.
So at
But it builds
the end of the day, then
animosity
it's
from the other
transactional.
side because the
It's
people that we
transactional.
But I mean,
It's transactional.
that's human interaction, man. Like,
yeah, I'm
We're
okay
being
with the
paid
transactional
to be the
aspect
world
of it.
police. That's what I'm saying. So then, if we're being paid to be the world police, then their motivation behind it can't be pure. Like, there's no
It leads to corruption.
full circle. There's no way.
I guess police is the wrong word to use for the situation, because police it kind of comes with like, especially as an American, it comes with some kind of like oppressive view or some enforcement of law. It's more like the world guard.
But the problem is, even if you want to use the guard, police, hero, whatever word you want to use, I don't think it matters, because the problem is whoever you're helping, you're also putting someone else at a disadvantage. So
So
one
don't
person
help
sees this
anybody.
as a-
Like don't help no one, man. Like that.
Yeah.
What?
Your
I'm
friends,
okay
but don't
with that.
pretend you
Well,
don't
but
pretend you're
like
being a good guy.
that doesn't make any sense to me. Like you want this feeling of we're repressing aggression. If you want to rise aggression, then run towards the conflict, but run towards good conflicts. Run towards things that challenge you. Run
What good
towards things that.
conflict, though? That's my disconnect with you. Is there is no good conflict out there to pursue. Every single conflict we've been in all of current modern times in the past, has been for selfish gains. We went to Iraq because of what? Weapons of war? We went there for oil. You think we're helping out Ukraine because we care about Ukraine? No, we're doing it because we want involvement and influence in Ukraine on the Eastern Hemisphere. Give a fuck about Israel? We don't care about Israel. We care about Israel because we want influence and a base of operations in Israel.
Do you think the general population all thinks that way?
The general population doesn't care or even involved or even well informed to know to make a proper opinion in my.
There are people within the country that
Feels what
truly
way, Doc?
believe that it's all for naught. That it all has some nefarious undermotive for everything we're doing right now. Do you actually think that there are people within the country that think, hey, maybe we are helping Ukraine?
I think there's
I'm
people
sure
who
some
think
people
we're
think
helping
that.
Ukraine.
Yeah, sure. I do think that. I think they're naive, but of course they think that.
But I think that's where your negativity is just conquering. Because, like, I mean, like we are helping them. What are you talking? The nihilism of the situation. It's just like you literally have people helping a nation that's trying to defend itself and fight for freedom. Yes, they have their own issues. Yes, they have their own problems. And yes, they have a dichotomy in like governments. Like, yes, there are neo-Nazis in there and stuff like that. But it's like the first thing you kind of focus on within that situation is, oh, this is some nefarious ploy. Because somebody's trying to profit off of this.
For me, the Ukraine thing, the first thing that pops up is before the war, Joe Biden's son was working in Ukraine. Then all of a sudden, Joe Biden comes to Congress and asks Congress for half of the world to send to Ukraine. So, like, my problem isn't actually with the Ukrainian conflict or even if we're going to help. To be honest with you, we know we got beef with Russia. If you're an American, you know we got beef with Russia. So you're kind of okay with fucking over Russia in any way possible because fuck you guys.
I think genuinely, though, to be good, you have to have some naivety. You have to at some point agree that this is stupid, but I'm in the right place. Like, I'm right. And like that's kind of why, like, you know, people say, oh, the good ones go first, or the good ones always, like, you know, don't make it back and stuff like that. Because at some point you literally just have to be like, you know what? Yes, maybe. Yeah, because that's it. It's just a leap of faith. So people are like, yes, this person's probably fucking me up. This person's probably setting me up. This person wants that, but you just have to walk towards it.
But I can't make that leap of faith off of false information or manipulated information. That's my issue. As a Christian, I have no problem taking leaps of faith. I'm a Christian. In the modern day age, being a Christian is a leap of faith in itself. The problem is I don't want to take this leap of faith over manipulated or false information. That you may say it's negative, and I don't dispute that I may have a lot majority negative outlooks or nihilistic outlooks. In this particular situation, I think it's more realistic than negative, because obviously most of these wars we go in are not for good, wholesome reasons. It's for personal gain. But we tell the public, oh, we're doing it because they got weapons of war. Oh, we're doing it because Russia's bullying Ukraine. Oh, we're doing it because Israelis are being persecuted. We can't have another Holocaust. It's this fake pseudo narrative that we're feeding people to make them feel good about supporting this. That's not the truth. That's not genuine. If there was actual Holocaust level stuff going on again, like they happened back then you're right. I would agree with you. We got to step up. We got to defend this injustice. The problem is there's no... Okay, then to your point, Doc, why aren't we going to war with China? They're holocausting Muslims. They got them in concentration camps. They're literally... What's the term? When they're neutering them so they can't have children. That's literally going on, but we're fighting in Ukraine?
I mean,
that's my point, though.
I told you, like, fucking podcast number 10 that we should probably go in and try to save the Uyghurs. Remember that?
I was with you.
I straight up said it. I was like, bro, we should try and go in, and that's literally. I agree with you.
And I agree. That's my point, though. Is we need accurate, non-manipulated information to make these. I agree with you. These leaps of faith that are justified. The problem is we're not doing that,
bro. How are we gonna go save the Uyghurs? Go to Ukraine, help Israel, feed the poor. Salvation Red Army. Like, how we gonna do all of these things that all of a sudden we got to do? And new shit popping up every day.
Entirely like good. I mean, it'll probably.
We even said we stockpiled enough resources to handle all of this stuff.
I mean, to give a simple answer, it's a quote I always remember is like, how do you eat an elephant? Just one bite at a time. Like that's it. That's all you know what I mean? You just point and you just start going. You just start moving. That's all you can do. And I agree that there are some nefarious politicians, and I think in general Americans, like the reason why we didn't enter direct conflict with China is because they're too happy with Amazon deliveries and stuff like that, and they're too happy with the way things are. So it's why not just go for smaller, because it's easier to prey on them or to do things like that.
So we're bullies.
For some regions of the world, yes, I would say that. But I think that answers your question as to why you think violence is being repressed here. Because I mean, if we were running towards the challenges, if we were running towards the good things, then we would be praising our aggression instead of suppressing it because we're bullies.
Or are we going after China instead of Ukraine because we're going against the actual problem or against the actual bullies? Yeah. We're not fighting other bullies. We're shaking hands with other bullies saying, you got your territory, I got my territory. You don't mess with me, I don't mess with you.
And people are sick of it, though.
Agree.
Because even when you were talking, you mentioned so many conflicts in the past like 10 years, and I was like, dude, violence is there, man. Like it's there in our nation.
Fake though, but it's fake.
That's why people, I think, back home don't like it, because it's fake and it's going for the wrong things and it's not used for good. And so, like, if we have the natural aggression, you got to aim it at the bigger enemies or the more honorable conflicts. That's really it. Like,
hey, what social setting would y'all compare the world stage to?
I would compare it to a high school situation hierarchy of you got the captain of the wrestling team, you got the captain of the football team, you got the captain of the swim team, and they're all in the face, shaking hands, going to the pep rallies, going to these showing faith. Behind the scenes, they're fucking each other up. They're trying to. I'm gonna screw your girlfriend. I'm gonna make you fight your friend. They got this petty high school drama going on, but as long as we're in front of a pep rally, we got smiling faces. But behind the scene, bro.
Bet y'all can make you change your answer.
Go for it.
Answer.
I don't know, actually. I mean, the only thing I think of is like a student body, like Gene was saying, but that's
prison.
A prison?
It's prison.
That's
it's
interesting.
Prison. And so what I'm trying to, so my whole point about it is, at the end of the day, you're in prison. At the end of the day, so let's not pretend we're in some space where good just prevails, or like there's overlining, like, I'm not trying to be nihilistic or negative about it, but like
That's my job. Back
in a
up.
prison, everybody in prison is there most part for a reason. So like all of that fake, all that other stuff, nice guys, shake hands, all that's really much out the window. And in prison, I'm sure you have your gangs, you have your whatever, your protected interests, and even the people that don't like each other, guess what? They'll do business together. If you have to do business together to get contraband, to do this, to do that. I think we're kind of looking at it, and the best way to say it, I think we're kind of looking at it too optimistically, thinking that the world is a social setting where it's like just like um open place where people meet and collaborate. And no, it's a lot of the same circumstances that you deal with in prison. Stay out of the bigger guys, the bigger groups way. Like you make your friends based on who you don't want to get fuck with, right? Like it's all that type of thing. So I don't think we can be heroes in prison.
The point is, if you want to be a hero, you have to accept that you're also probably a villain somewhere else too. You can't be a hero without being a villain, and you can't be a villain without being a hero. They're one and the same. In the real world, you cannot be a hero without being a villain. In Marvel, in comics, anime, all these other ideas, you can be the hero and still be the good guy, and everyone else sees you as the good guy. That's not the real world. The real world, if you're the hero to somebody, you're also the villain to somebody else.
So then, but like by that
Heroes
logic,
don't
it's like you're just gonna commit a bunch of evil or try to do good. Like
No,
it's
the
just like
problem
you,
is
The
choose
worst
your
you
battles.
can do.
It comes back to what you said, and I agree with you. You have to choose your battles
oh, for sure,
properly.
yeah.
That's what it comes
That's
down to. You have to accept that. If I'm going to be the hero, I'm probably going to be the villain to somebody else. Am I okay being the villain to those group of people? If the answer is yes, go do it. Then okay, you're fine. You don't need to defend yourself. Then you're okay with it. That's my problem. Is we want to be the heroes and viewed as the heroes amongst everybody. But we're not. It's fake. That's my point. We have to be okay with being the heroes and the villains. But we're
That's why
not
they ain't
okay
show
with that.
heroes.
That's why it's fake.
That's why they ain't show
I can
heroes
see that
killing.
being the issue. Or go on.
That's why they ain't show heroes killing people in movies up until recently. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
heroes can kill people now. It's more realistic. I ain't seen Batman, Superman, none of them kill somebody for real.
But
And the
that's why
Batman movie's
Batman.
egregious.
Well, that's why bring up comics now. That's why Batman, in my opinion, I'm sure there's probably lots of disagreements and arguments here, but that's why
It's that
Batman is
rubbish.
the more respected hero compared to Superman, even though
Oh, yeah.
Superman has more supernatural powers. Because Batman chooses not to kill, even though he can't kill. Superman can kill, and he probably will. That's why there's that alternate universe of him actually becoming, what is it, like Red Superman or something like that? Because he lost Lois Lane, he goes on a tyrannical spree. Because Batman actually like that moral law instilled in him, he will not kill. Superman, he's done it.
I ain't killing now. He's shooting shit up.
Literally in the most recent Superman movie, Man of Steel, that happened like 2010-ish. Superman snapped the neck of Zod. Batman would never snap Zod's neck, no matter how bad Zod is. That's the difference.
No, in that universe, they made Batman kill. That one's not the right one.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
that
You're
one-
right. That's not the right one.
in
Because I
that
never
one,
watched
he
that movie,
fucking-
and I was going ham.
he's got his fucking Batmobile and he's just mowing down people. I
do
remember
that.
watching it and I was just like, what the fuck? Like what?
That's not Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was
In hero movies
I
growing up, never killed anybody.
I do agree with the issue of like the good and bad and the bad and good, because it's like it's the Tao. Like whatever you do that's good, there's gonna be a speck of bad in there. Like if you help defend one nation, it's gonna breed a resistance group on some other side and stuff like that. I think that's a part of everything in life though, and I do agree with having to make the decisions on when you need to do the tough thing. And I mean I feel like everybody faces that.
100%.
I just think you should more often than not try to aim for the better thing. And I generally think, like I said, dismantling the industrial military complex in the United States is a harder ask than just being like, all right, well, we have this thing, let's just put it to good use. It's like if you had money,
Hero do.
but it's like it's like Ebenezer Scrooge. Like if you have the money, like it's like, okay, well, I have this shit, might as well just give it away now. Like it's
As an example, the hero would take the harder task because it's the right thing to do.
So
but we have no
dismantling.
heroes.
How many times Batman done shut that cave down?
What do you think is the harder task, dismantling the industrial complex or hoping it doesn't conquer?
A 180.
Yeah.
A 180 is
roots are
harder.
bad.
100%. Yeah, 180.
The roots are
The
bad,
180 is
so,
harder because
like-
of roots. Exactly. It's a 180 that's harder. Dismantling is a lot easier than 180.
Every step we take continuing on this type of journey is a step further from resetting and starting back and going in the right direction. So as far as difficulty, it may be easier to continue and justify continuing because you've already gone so far. But as far as if you're saying you want to be the hero, or if you want to be the police, or if you want to be the authoritative figure, you'd have to do the right thing instead of the easier thing, which would just be use what we currently have. The right thing would be to reset it properly and then position ourselves to do that if that's our real intention.
Or even to Doc's point, like he said, use the resource we have built and use it for good, for lack of a better word. If that is true, then what we should do is stop fighting in Israel, stop fighting Ukraine, stop fighting in, we have it in Iraq, but I mean, to finish my point, in Iraq, and go after China where there's actual humanitarian problems going on. The problem is we don't, because that's hard, because it would be challenging an actual equal threat or greater threat. We're not willing to do that because it'll affect our bottom line. It'll affect our the votes, politicians getting reelected. It'll affect their money influence because they're 100% laundering money through these wars. And it'll also affect their livelihood. They're going to get assassinated probably because guess what? They have assassins. 100% they do. Like you said, CIA agents, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like that's why we're not these good people on the world stage, because at the end of the day, the people who do represent us are demons. Are demonic
The
demons
world's-
are agents of it.
How much of the world's stuff does China manufacture?
A
We can't go to
large
war with them
percentage.
folks. We can't go
Exactly.
to war with them folks. That makes no sense for us. Which is proof, like what was going on with the Uyghurs? You see how everybody was on LeBron's ass for not saying anything?
Yep, I
He
remember
was
that.
speaking on other social issues,
Yep, I
right?
remember that. Yep.
What are we doing? That's what's different.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like people want to keep their status quo and stuff like that. And I'm not advocating for war. I mean, obviously, I'm inadvertently get into the conflict, and I know that not only like it's not an issue for politicians and stuff like that to line their pockets, but it's more so like the loss of life itself is very real, and that's something to consider. And so I understand people being adverse to superpower on superpower conflict because the loss of life would be great. And so the hard part with it, I would think, is literally just being able to use our resources as defensive capabilities and stuff like that. And like that's the only way I can see it.
I think you just convinced me. I think you just convinced me there could be violence in the political system. If it's country against country, our president against another president, go for it.
Ooh, I'm for that. Yes, I'll do that. We can end this war right now.
2 pistols, 2 bullets.
Screw
each
that.
pistol.
No, I want them fist to fist. I want them bloody knuckles. I want them to go at it bloody knuckles. Screw the guns, screw the swords, bloody knuckles.
I like the champion duel stuff. I just think like what would be the price? I'd be like, fuck, our president's not that.
No,
I feel like that would create an extreme meritocracy, because at that point the president would just be the toughest dude. Like that would be
true.
Achilles would be the president of the world.
Yeah, at that point, because he would just fight the wars for people. Like, and that would be a difficult society to live in, I think.
The Spartan days, throwing babies away at birth for defects.
Yeah, that's how we would go to.
I don't know, some kind of, I don't know, maybe it's sadistic, but it's like, hey man, the president died for the cause. You can't get no more down than that, man. Like,
right. Go down in history, like honestly.
Like, that's real smoke. I'm not talking about no fisticuffs and hey, put them there, dukes up. No, I'm talking about Achilles with the spear and the shield.
On the front line with everybody, just banging the shield, trying to get height. Yeah, we don't have that, but that's the point though. Is we don't have that. We got a bunch of, lack of a better word, pansies hiding behind the entire front line, even farther than behind the front line. They're literally in a bunker, 100 feet deep with rations for a year while giving out orders to people in the front line. Like,
I don't agree with
that's
that.
literally what we have, and that's why we can't be this notion of this world police when the people who are guiding the soldiers are pansies and couldn't even
Cowards.
defend themselves. Exactly.
I don't agree with that. Nigga gotta get shot. I don't even agree with that. Hey, come let me shoot you in your arm, then you can tell us to go to war. Because all these folks, for example, me hearing Donald Trump threaten any country of war was pissing me off. And it had nothing to do with him being right or wrong to defend the country. I'm just looking at this human being like, bro, how dare you send people's children to go to war? You, out of all people, you just probably never lifted a dumbbell in your life.
But that's why a lot of conservatives, maybe more libertarians, have the sentiment of send your children. If you're, as a politician, if you're willing to send your children to war, I'll go to war. Because
There's a whole movie about it called
politicians
Mulan.
won't, exactly, because politicians won't send their children. And if they won't send their children, then why are we going to war then? Is the cause not just enough to be okay with your child going to war? If it's that much of a moral, reprehensible injustice going on, why are you so against your own child fighting in that? Shouldn't that be an honorable thing to participate in?
I'm gonna tell
Shouldn't
you
that
why.
bring glory to your family and country?
I'm gonna tell you why. You know, Prince William went to war. He went to Iraqi war, I believe.
Yeah.
You see how associated with his family he is now, with his current political sphere. He went and married a black chick and said, "Fuck y'all. I don't want nothing to do," and renounced his title. The reason they're not gonna send their children is because their children will see the truth.
That's fair. And I think that's correct and accurate. Yeah. Because in politics, there's a lot of, what's the word when you, in your family, and you keep bringing your family in? What is that called?
Starts with an N. I can't.
Nepotism.
Nepotism. Thank you.
There you
A
go.
lot of nepotism in politics. I think that is so inappropriate. I think that's
You're like, yo,
Let's go.
Hunter, you want to enlist, bro? I don't know what the fuck Hunter would do.
he'd say,
I
"Hell
don't
no,
know.
I'm gonna go sniff cocaine off a stripper's ass."
They're like, cool, 'cause
Hunter
we
would've-
need to find a package of cocaine. Go over there. You're the fucking point man.
All right.
Use him as a
but-
K9. Now
We've been
Hunter would have definitely friendly fired somebody.
Yes.
Yeah, he seems like. Well, I don't know. I don't know the guy, but yeah.
So we talked for an hour and a half. I think we enjoyed this conversation. It was a fun conversation. I think we didn't expect, or at least for me, I didn't expect us to get so passionate about this. This was fun.
Mm.
Any last thoughts before we close it out?
Mm,
Boy, if you don't get
to be honest with you.
Ian's ready to close it. All right, y'all. Thank you all for tuning in for Fake Deep Thinking. We only got through one topic today because this one was a long, in my opinion, fun roller coaster because a lot to analyze here. Which obviously, as y'all hour and a half in. If you haven't liked the video already, please like the video. If you haven't left a comment, leave a comment. Let us know your opinions, whether or not you think America's a bunch of pansies or you think it should be world police or not. Let us know your thoughts because they're out there. We want to know. We see y'all next time on Fake Deep Thinking. Peace.
Peace out, y'all. Yo, thanks for making it to the end. We really appreciate it and hope you all enjoyed the show.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button, and the notification bell to get notified when we post our clips.
Follow us on Twitter at PodcastFDT. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are all Fake Deep Thinking. Check us out, please.
FDT. Peace, y'all.
Peace.